Yo, what's up everyone, Mr. Premps here, and chapter 1000 is fast approaching. In fact, by the time this video is out, there's probably only 9 or maybe even 8 more chapters to drop until we get to that magical 1000 number. So what I've decided to do is track back through our One Piece journeys and look at what happened every 100 chapters and see if indeed Oda does have a pattern of dropping something magical or of huge importance. Now I don't want to make this video too long, but what I'll do is provide a little context of the setting and also give a big reveal if there is one. I'll also have some timestamps in the comments so you can jump to any point you want in this video. Now as always, before I get started, if you do enjoy content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button as it really does show your support and lets me know if you're liking the content that I am posting on this page. But as a bonus, you'll also be notified whenever I release new content, meaning I can continue bringing you guys and girls One Piece content on at least a weekly basis. And now I have that out of the way, let's get right into it. First up, we have One Piece Manga Chapter 100, which was absolutely great. The chapter's called The Legend Has Begun, and it sure did. Oda really didn't play around with this chapter, and without delaying anymore, we got the appearance of Monkey D. Dragon, aka the world's most wanted man. At this point in the chapter, we were actually in LogueTown, and Smoker introduced himself as captain of the Marine headquarters with the aim to stop Luffy setting sail and entering the Grand Line. Going back to reread this chapter was absolutely nostalgic, as low gears were really so overpowered. Luffy was actually captured by Smoker, but as a gust of wind appears and a storm brews, completely out of nowhere by the way, here comes Dragon, freeing Luffy from Smoker's grasp. And that allowed the Straw Hats to escape and left Smoker questioning why the world's most wanted man would allow them to escape. It's at this point that Luffy and the current Straw Hats arrive back onto the Merry as they look across the seas and re-emphasize their dreams, and it's at this point, as the title says, quote unquote, the legend truly begins. Oda follows on from chapter 100 with something quite significant in chapter 202. At this point in the story, we're in Alabasta, and we're in the midst of Crocodile's and Luffy's 1v1 showdown, and Luffy literally couldn't even touch Crocodile. And honestly, this reminds me that the pre-time skip flex that Logias had was literally ridiculous. So what did Oda do? He had Luffy literally drink seawater and become Water Luffy, which is actually the name of the chapter too. Luffy then blows a bubble of seawater onto Crocodile, and lo and behold, Crocodile's powers are absolutely nerfed, which I actually have a problem with, but I won't get into that because this is not an analysis of the actual chapter. With Crocodile's powers now nerfed, Luffy goes in for the Gomu Gomu Bazooka, hitting Crocodile for the first time and being able to hit a Logia. One Piece Manga Chapter 300 is a little less exciting. The chapter's called Symphony, and in regards to the setting, we're in Skypiea, and personally I do think Skypiea was a fantastic arc, and although it didn't occur in the chapter, we saw Enel's OP Devil Fruit, and how Luffy's Devil Fruit literally was the direct counter for it. We also see Enel's fantastic use of observation haki, and at this point I think it really clicked to most of us that there's actually levels to this shit. However, as for the magical number of 300 and whether anything dramatic actually happened in this chapter, I'd say it would have to be Enel's journey to the moon. For the purposes of this video, I think Enel travelling to the moon, truly believing he's a god, is quite interesting. And depending on when he shows up again in the story, it could be absolutely amazing depending on what he found or gained whilst there. And if it has any major significance to the story going forward, that would be amazing, so watch this space. One Piece Manga Chapter 400 is called The Releasing Key, and to be fair, from the top of my mind, I actually couldn't think of anything great that happened in this chapter. So I went back and I reread the chapter right from the beginning, and I want to highlight the cover page first and foremost, which I think was really cool because we got Crocodile, and the purpose of the cover page links back to the whole Baroque Works organisation, and Miss Golden Week was staging their breakout, so that was pretty cool, but nothing of real significance. However, in terms of setting for the chapter, we're in one of my most favourite arcs, and that's Enies' lobby. This arc is absolutely amazing, and I'm definitely going to do an arc review series at some point down the line, and I'm almost looking forward to this one the most. But in regards to whether anything significant happened in this chapter, I'd say the whole chapter was really good. And one of the things we crave so much as One Piece fans are individual fights from the Straw Hats, and in this chapter their fights were decided. They had split up and decided which members of CP9 that they were about to fight, and let's face it, these might be some of the best fights in One Piece, well, for myself anyway. The magical chapter 500 is called The Embers of History, and we had the introduction of someone who was very prominent in One Piece's history and of huge significance to the story currently, and that was the first mate to the Pirate King Goldie Roger and user of all 3 types of haki, and that's the Dark King Rayleigh. In terms of setting, we're actually in Sabaody, which actually ranks quite high in my favourite arcs. Actually thinking about it, maybe I'm just a really big One Piece fan. Anyway, I'm digressing. But yes, we're introduced to Silver's Rayleigh, and what a way to end the chapter. And although I feel like this is the most important reveal in the chapter, we also had a brief interaction between Eustace Kid and Trafalgar D. Waterloo, who at this point we didn't know too much about, and personally for me, going back and reading this, it was actually so cool because it reminds me how much I really loved some of the Supernova's designs pre-time skip, and Kid and Law were 2 that I really did like. I personally loved this chapter, and I think Oda did a great job, particularly for a momentous chapter. Now chapter 600 was a brilliant chapter too, as it links into the reveal we got of Rayleigh in chapter 500. The chapter is actually called The Island of Restarting, and literally that's what happened. At this point we've gone past the time skip, and the Straw Hats all begin to reunite after 2 years apart from each other. We get the usual Straw Hat dynamics, for example, the love-hate brotherly relationship between Zoro and Sanji, but in terms of what actually happened, we get to see the new designs of the Straw Hats, and Rayleigh telling the Straw Hats that their time to restart after 2 years of training has begun. And although things may get a bit rough, now was the time. It was absolutely fitting words coming from the Pirate King's first mate, and really at the time I'm sure it got all of us so hype, just to see the Straw Hats all together again, although Luffy hadn't joined yet. One Piece Manga Chapter 700 is titled His Own Pace, and this was actually the beginning of the Dressrosa arc. Now quite a lot happened in this chapter, including Dofi's fake resignation from the Warlords, to Kinnaman's short explanation as to his desire to go to Zou. But in terms of significance, we got the reveal of Don Flamingo's possession of Ace's Mera Mera no Mi. And to be honest, I think this ties in beautifully to chapter 600, where after Luffy saw the death of his brother, his crew and himself went away to train for 2 years so that they could be strong enough going forward. And after being told by Rayleigh to set sail, 100 chapters later, we find out who is in possession of the fruit his brother had. And honestly, I love reading writing like this, as you almost see things come full circle, and it's even more beautiful later on when you find out eventually who gets the fruits. Now chapter 800 for me was of great significance. Now we're still in the Dressrosa arc, however it's come towards its end. The chapter's called Followers' Sake Cups, and yes, I know I pronounced sake the British way, but who cares, you all know what I mean. Now the reason I say this was of great significance because I feel like in this chapter Luffy got that bit closer to being a great pirate. His grand fleet is formed, and even though he's not interested, they make it very evident that they'll be coming to his aid whenever he needs them. And to me, it had my mind flash back to Marineford, where we saw all of Whitebeard's allies join, and this made me realise that even though back in Romance Dawn, where Luffy said he wanted around 10 people in his crew, realistically you need a fleet, and now Luffy has that. Chapter 900 is the most recent chapter in our minds, and that's Bad End Musical. Now I know a lot of people were quite disappointed with what happened in this chapter, but in terms of setting, we were in Whole Cake Island, and in regards to significance, well, Big Mum ate the wedding cake that Sanji baked, bringing her cravings to an end, and she was no longer chasing the Straw Hats, although a lot of her forces still were. Now let's go back and recap what happened in all of these chapters and then try to come to some sort of conclusion. So in chapter 100, we have the appearance of Dragon, or you could say the introduction of an important character in LogueTown. In chapter 200, we have Water Luffy, where he was finally able to hit a low gear in Alabasta. In chapter 300, we have Enel going to the moon, so a key character actually leaving in Skypiea. In chapter 400, we have the introduction of new protagonists in CP9 and 1v1 fights for the Straw Hats in Enies lobby. In chapter 500, we have the introduction of Rayleigh, or the introduction of an important character in Sabaody. In chapter 600, we have the Straw Hats reunite and return into Sabaody. In chapter 700, we have the Mera Mera no Mi reveal and the beginning of the Dressrosa arc. In chapter 800, we have the Grand Fleet formed and the end of the Dressrosa arc. In chapter 900, Big Mum eats the wedding cake, bringing her rampage to an end in Whole Cake. So what I guess I'm really getting at here is that Oda tends to introduce something or someone or bring something to an end in these big chapters. Which brings me to my thoughts as to what's going to happen in One Piece chapter 1000. Now I'll most likely do a prediction video as we get closer to this chapter. However, I think Oda sticks with the theme of introducing something or someone or bringing something to an end, and the most logical thing that I think is going to happen is the end of Wano Act 3. But I guess the bigger question is, what else will happen? And I think most people believe, or most people are expecting, a death. Now I'll give my thoughts in the video closer to the time, but I'd sure like to hear some of your theories in the comments, and I'd love to discuss it with you, so do drop a note in the comments and let's discuss. Now I did say I would try to keep this video short, so I think I'll end it here, but for all those new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification too, and if you like anything I've had to say, make sure you hit that thumbs up button too. Safe.